Hello everyone, I am Chase at Rocky Mountain HVMC, and today I'm going to show you how to wash a dirt bike. Alright, so I know what you're thinking. Chase, are you really going to show us how to wash a dirt bike? Yes, I am. Now I will admit, and I'm one of them, that when it comes to washing dirt bikes, especially when they're really muddy, you just got done riding, you're tired, the last thing I want to do is wash a bike. It's pretty time consuming, but we know it has to get done. So there's a lot of different methods that you can use to wash a dirt bike. Everyone kind of does it their own way, but today I'll show you my method, how I like to do it. But I'm also just going to share with you some tips and tricks, and especially some things you don't want to do or things you want to avoid when you're washing your bike. So really important information that we're going to give out in this video. And so just remember, the next time you get done riding, your bike's dirty, you look at it and you just think to yourself, yeah, I'm just going to go ride tomorrow, so maybe I won't wash it. You got to remember, bikes have feelings too. So let's get started. All right, so before we get started, I'm just gonna show you guys the tools that I have up here, some things that I like to use when I'm washing my bike. These things are gonna help you out as well. So first one is an exhaust plug. Whether you have one or two mufflers, pick up as many as you need. These just go into your exhaust. They help prevent water from getting in there when you're washing your bike. Next, you've got some SC1. This stuff is awesome for polishing up the bike or the ATV, making it look good when you're all done. You gotta have some chain cleaner, some chain guard or some chain lubricant. I also like to have just a spray wash, so I'll spray the whole bike down with this wash. So this is the Bell Ray spray on, rinse off. Also, I've got my Twin Air box wash cover, probably the most important thing that I use when I wash my bike, and I'll show you why here in a minute. After that, I've got my grunge brush, so I use this to clean my chain. Mud scraper, okay? These things are awesome, they're inexpensive, and they're just used to scrape the mud off your bike. What I recommend that's gonna help speed up the process is right when you get done riding, whether you're at the track or out in the desert, wherever it might be, if you have a lot of mud built up on your bike, take one of these, just scrape off all the mud or as much as possible. That way when you go to wash your bike, you don't have to spray off as much mud. It's really gonna speed up the process. Next, you wanna have some good quality rags. They're gonna be really absorbent, so we're gonna dry the bike when it's all done. So these are just the maximum microfiber rags that we have. And also, I like to use a wash mitt. I like to actually go through, wash down the bike with my hand, and the reason for that is you can spray the bike off really good, but what happens a lot of times is you still have a film of dirt on there when you're all done. So using this just really helps us get that film of dirt off of everything. There's also some other parts that I'll show you that I like to use this mitt for. But those are the tools that I have that I like to use when I wash my bike. So now it is time for the first step. All right, so before we get started, we gotta prep the bike. Now this is pretty simple, but very important. So first thing, take your exhaust plug. If you have it, you're gonna plug up your exhaust. Now, if you don't have an exhaust plug, okay, you can use duct tape. I've done it before. I've forgotten exhaust plugs before at the house. So take your exhaust plug, plug it in there, keep as much water out of there as possible. And next is the seat. So with the seat, okay, you've got your seat foam. You wanna try and remove the seat as much as you can, because if you wash it too much, you can get water underneath the cover, and over time, it starts to break the foam down. It gets pretty soft. And eventually, at some point, you'll just have to go pick up a new seat because it just breaks down too much. So what we're gonna wanna do is we're gonna remove the seat, then we're gonna take our Twin Air airbox wash cover, we're gonna take our air filter off, put this on. That way, as we're washing the bike, we can actually spray out the entire airbox, and we're not gonna worry about getting water inside the airbox itself, because that can be bad if you get air or water into the motor. So that's how we're gonna prep the bike, and then we're gonna start washing. All right, guys, so I've got my airbox covered up. I've also got my exhaust plug in. So now what I like to do from here is I lay the bike over. For me, I like to do that because it's easier to clean underneath the bike also. It's easier to get underneath the fenders. You don't have to do it that way, but for me, I think it just makes it easier. So laying the bike over, you got a couple options. Motorsports Products does have a layover stand, which is nice, but I just use a stand. Okay, it's pretty simple. When you lay it over, you can either do it on the grip, but if you want to avoid tearing the grips like you'll see me do, I actually lay the bike over and set it right on the lower triple clamp. So that's how I like to do it. You don't have to. But once you've done that, we're gonna start washing the bike. So we'll wash underneath first. So a couple things, as I mentioned earlier, some things you don't want to do or you want to avoid. Okay, if you're using a pressure washer, which is what I like to use, I know a lot of guys out there say just use a regular garden hose. That route you can take. For me, it just takes a pretty long time. Pressure washer, in my opinion, is just fine to use. You just want to make sure you have a lot of pivot points on your bike, a lot of bearings. So say your steering stem bearings, your linkage, your swing arm bearings, those areas, if you're using a pressure washer, you just don't want to get too close. You want to avoid those, and that will prevent any damage to those. All right, so now that I've got underneath the bike wash, underneath the fenders, what I like to do next, put the bike back on the stand. Now I'm gonna go through, I'm gonna wash the entire bike. Both sides, I'm gonna make sure I get as much of the dirt and the mud off as possible. After I've done that, what I'll do is I'll take my bike wash, I'll spray the entire bike down, including inside the airbox, so we're gonna pressure wash that as well. And then I'm gonna take my mitt, and I'm gonna go through and wipe everything down. That's gonna get as much of that dirt and that film off as possible. Now, one thing I did not mention earlier that I wanna bring up now, okay, I mentioned that you don't wanna get too close to your pivot points and your bearings with the pressure washer. You also want to avoid any of your electrical components. So your ECU, your map switches, your kill switches, maybe you do have an hour meter on your bike. So those areas you want to avoid or not get too close to as well. A lot of those things are easy to just clean by hand with a rag and some water after the fact. So just avoid getting too close to that. So now let's just go through, wash everything, use our bike wash, and we'll get her dialed in. All right, guys, so we got her all washed up. She's looking good, but a couple more steps to go. So first, we're gonna take our chain cleaner and we're gonna use this and our grunge brush, and we're gonna clean up the chain, make sure we get as much grime and dirt off of there as possible. All right, so everything is washed. Now, final step. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna put the bike back together. So I'm gonna put the air filter back on, and I'm gonna put the exhaust, take the exhaust plug out, install the seat. Now's a great time, if you have a fresh air filter, throw that in. But we're gonna dry the bike now. So what I like to do, if you don't have compressed air, okay, I'm gonna start the bike up, and while the bike is running, that's gonna burn off a lot of the water on the engine. It's also gonna burn up any excess water you have in the exhaust. If you have compressed air, that stuff is awesome. That really helps get all the water out of the nooks and crannies. The one important part that I wanna share is make sure too that with your forks, you wanna dry the forks off as best you can. You can actually get a lot of water spots from the water drying up on the fork tubes. And if that happens, that can actually damage your seals. All right, guys, so we got it all dried up. So last couple final steps. First, we're gonna lubricate our chain. Very important you do that after washing the bike. You don't want any water to dry on the chain and have it rust. And then after we get done doing that, we're gonna take our SC1, we're gonna go spray down the bike. We're gonna polish up everything, get it looking nice and fresh, nice and shiny. And then what I like to do actually with the SC1 is I'll actually take it and spray underneath the fenders. And the reason I like to do that is the next time you go ride, it's actually this stuff, the coating on your fenders will actually help prevent mud from sticking on there. So we're gonna spray down the bike and we'll be just about good to go. All right, guys, so there you go. That's how I like to wash a dirt bike. So hopefully these tips have helped you out. Now remember, not really a wrong way to do it, but you just want to avoid the things we talked about, which is your pivot points, your bearings, also your electrical components if you're using that pressure washer. And remember that after you're done, this is a perfect time to go through the bike, inspect everything, look for any damage, any components that might need to be replaced. That way, the next time you go to the track or just go out for riding, you have that peace of mind knowing that everything on your bike is good to go and you're ready to rip around. Now, as far as my method, I would love it if you guys would comment below. Let me know if there's a way that you like to wash your bike that you think works well. Comment below, that's gonna help other people out. And all the products that we talked about in this video that I use, you can pick up at Rocky Mountain on our website. It's RockyMountainATVMC.com. Remember, guys, orders over $75 ship free. If you like this little how-to video, you want to see more like it, along with great product spotlight videos, our bike builds, everything that we got going on here at Rocky Mountain, well, you got to make sure you click and subscribe. I'm Chase, and we'll see you on the trails.